Well, here we are opening up the wireless one. I didn't think I was going to ever get this, but using it, the truck the last few days there, I had a dump trailer on hauling gravel. So by the time I pumped the thing up, and then they got it riding high, and then it's riding low, and trying to adjust the air pressures underneath it on the fly, turned into be a real PETA. So anyway, I'm going to put this on, and I will show you the video as we put it on. Okay, here's what comes in the box. This user guide. Got the constructions for installing it. Shows all that. My biggest concern pre-buying this was that if I had a problem with air pressure, this is all the cables and stuff. If I had a problem with air pressure while the truck is parked, will the compressor keep running until, you know, the battery goes dead, or will it shut itself off? By some of the instructions that I saw, it talked about that it would be silent until the truck was moved or until there was a weight change or something. So I guess that's what we've got to see what happens there with that. You know, this part of the box isn't coming quite as easy. Oh, this is the air compressor. Nowhere near as big as I thought it'd be. Not much bigger than my hand. So that's kind of nice. Nice and small, compact. So that'll probably fit wherever it's supposed to fit. I assume the other is the wireless manifold being here. If we can find the right side of the box to open this. This is the controller for it all. And this little box left should be the controller itself. And there that is. So, as I progress with this, I'll get it boxed out a little bit better for you, and then I'll show you as I install it and where I'm going to install it. Well, I used this diagram to decide on how to lay the mount out. Originally, I thought I would put it up inside the box and keep it clean and everything, but I looked it all over, and it seems like this is the most logical spot to put it. And this is where I put it on the truck. So I got it up in the air. I checked everything where I wanted to be, and I had to use my angle head drill air. And what I did is I mounted it. I don't know if you can see this. Let me see. So I mounted the air compressor back towards the rear, and I went ahead and mounted the control box towards the front. Two things. They said, you know, you got to have it for the connection with the electronics, the Bluetooth or whatever. And then I've laid out where I'm going to run all the wires. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right up over the frame, run them up all along the frame. I ordered a bunch of wire loom. That'll be here whenever it gets here. They want to have that end cut off and then use a butt connector to hook these together. I could probably do that, but then the air from the compressor comes out of this port and runs down into this port, so I can run the line right along that. And then this one goes back to the air bags. What I'm going to do is come out of there, and I'm going to put a piece of hose over the air hose to protect it, run it through the frame, and then I'll take it out of the frame back up in here, and then drop it down into the other air line, and I'll splice it back in with a T. I've already got the other side. It's got a T in it that goes back for the Schrader valve. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. Yeah, this is how I run the air line back to the back. I laced it through the frame and run it all the way back through. All the wires are run all the way to the front up along the frame. I'm waiting for my wire loom before I finish that total install there. But they all run up through to the front. And I brought it out of the frame up here, brought it down around, and I teed it in on this side. Okay, and I left the other side alone that's got the other T in it that goes back to the Schrader valve. So the Schrader valve is still in there. This one is in here. I've got to check it all for leaks yet, but right now I've got it pretty much done. I've got the compressor wire is all wired in. The only one I don't have that I'm not happy with yet is this control wire. I've got that wired straight to the battery for right now. I've got to find out where I can get to the accessory plug. These should be an accessory system, but I'm not sure where the fuses are for them or how to get to them. I may have to go find a real smart person to get that figured out. Once I figure that out, I will get that posted so that anybody that does this can see it. Down in here is the 15 amp fuse for the compressor, and that runs up into this box for the hot wire. Okay, I'm back with this. This is the end of July now, and I've had a pretty good chance to evaluate this airlift. I had lots of questions when I first bought it, first put it on, as to what it would do. Biggest questions I had was, you know, do I need to have that hookup for the ignition switch, the pink wire that went up to the ignition circuit, that the ignition circuit would run off, and come to find out, no, I don't need it. When the truck moves for any distance, the compressor pump or the manifold has got a motion switch apparently in it, and it will catch things up. But what I did do is I bought a bunch of plastic fittings. I didn't like that where I teed the line in from the manifold back and teed it in. So I got a Y fitting here where the lines come in parallel, and then I bought the rest of these. And the reason I bought a lot of these was I had a bad air leak, and I went through everything. I used an ungodly amount of soap and water looking for air leaks, and I'll show you the tool I did. Neighbor's mowing the lawn, so he's making a lot of frickin' racket. But ultimately, what I did when I couldn't find any leaks in any of the fittings was I disconnected the compressor. So the line that comes from the compressor to the manifold would be this one that you see here. And what I did is I disconnected it, I put a T in, and then I put a loop of air hose in it that just tied the manifold. Now the manifold with pressure on it would hold all day right at where I had it set with the compressor disconnected. So I got a hold of Airlift and talked to them, and they told me that, you know, it could be the check valve in the compressor. So with that compressor disconnected, obviously that's what we looked at. They shipped me a new compressor. I put it on, and then I used the Schrader valve to fill it so that I had I knew exactly what I had for air pressure, and I could leave my monitor on it to monitor it. And as soon as he's done mowing out there, I'll go out and show you what I use to monitor the air pressure. All right, back outside. Okay, this is what I use to monitor the air pressure. And this has been sitting on here almost an hour, and it hasn't moved one iota. And it's just hooked up to that Schrader valve. And back under here is where you can see I connected that Y. I just, you know, I didn't like the T. I wanted the cables or the air lines to be a little straighter coming in. But I spent hours under here looking for a leak, and I got all the new fittings just to make sure that I didn't have an issue with it. So here we are with the new compressor that they sent me, and like I said, all I did is disconnect the air line at this manifold where the compressor come in, run the line back, made a loop so it teed in, and then I fed the air off of my air compressor into the Schrader valve. And this thing would sit here and hold air, you know, as long as I felt like sitting out here to watch it. You know, then I got all this up. I did get the wire loom on, everything goes up. The one odd wire is this pink wire, and that's an ignition circuit wire that tickles this thing to start it when you first start up. So one of these red wires goes to battery, the other one comes back through this switch and goes to the compressor. When this calls for air, then this energizes and the compressor feeds air to it until this is happy. Now, with a load on it, depending on how the truck sits, sometimes you'll hear air bleed off, sometimes the compressor will run and bring it up. And that's all involved when it's got some motion going on, or you trigger it with the remote. So I brought both wires up in. This one I tied into a battery, fused it. This one is that trigger wire off the ignition. I just didn't want this thing to be triggered all the time. So right now this fuse is gone. There's no fuse in it. When I start the truck, I'll check the setting on the remote or the controller that's in the cab there. And a lot of times I'll forget to set it back to 5. So, you know, manually you have to set it back and forth whenever you do this. This is what the remote looks like. So, you know, if you trigger this, it'll come up and show you what it's set at. And right now it's set at 5. I leave it at 5 when it's empty. And depending on what I've got for a load on there, I go by vehicle height and then I adjust the air accordingly. I have hauled upwards of, well, I probably shouldn't say it on camera, but it's been some wicked, awful heavy tongue loads and stuff, and a lot of weight. The truck handles the weight okay. I don't get crazy. I've been to North Carolina 3 times with it, with the airbag system, and I am ecstatic. So it really works good. So even if you don't do anything, you've got your trailer hooked on and you run your trailer and you camp out overnight or stop at a motel in the morning. Now with the old compressor on there, it would have bled off and it would cycle 3 or 4 times, and then all of a sudden it wouldn't cycle anymore. So it does no motion. And that was the biggest question I had when we did this thing, was would it sense motion and would it shut off on its own? And it does shut off on its own. So I'm more than happy with it. You know, I just put that pressure gauge on there today so, you know, you can see what it is. You can't go wrong with this system. You know, you're going down the road and you've got tongue weight. You can change this. You can get your headlights back in the road instead of aimed in the air. I think it's worth every bit of what I spent on it and the time. I'm not happy about the amount of time I had to spend figuring out that it was the compressor check valve that was no good. But, you know, they sent me a brand new compressor. No problem at all. I didn't have to send the old one back or nothing. That still sits in a box. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. But it's there and it works. So with all that said, I'm going to finish up this video. If you have any questions, you know, just send me a note and, you know, I'll answer them the best I can. But like I said, it works on motion. If the air pressure is low for some reason in the morning and you take off, in a few minutes it'll start. You'll hear the compressor, or you'll feel it more running with a little bit of vibration, and there you are. So you can't ask for an easier system to run. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.